everybody, welcome back to another week of the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. I'm your host, Zang, and making his triumphant return, we have my wonderful co-host, Ace. Ace, how you feeling, man?
Back.
He's back.
I'm feeling good. Feeling good.
Good, we love to see it. Even after a tough week of fantasy, it's still good to have you back.
Oh, man, I don't even want to get into the bench blunders topic this week. You can do like a whole segment on me this week.
We do have the highest number we've ever had before. We're up to 9 this week, so
yeah, I got about half of those.
We'll get there. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Bose, thanks for the $50. Appreciate that, sir. Enjoy your win.
There it is. Alrighty. Well, we will get started right off the top with our matchup minute. Our first matchup is Zang versus Flaming Prius coming into this week. I was 4-4, and Prius was 5-3, so he was projected out there a little bit more, just in terms of record, to be our winner. Starting off on the first day, it was very close. I scored 71, and Prius had 75. That was thanks to Nick Lodolo's 30 points on his side and Bailey Ober's 21 for me. I took the lead back from him on Tuesday, actually, with a 90-65 point performance, winning that second day and taking the lead. Kyle Tucker's 11 points and Jamison Tyone, thanks to those two Cubs, helped me pull ahead there. Prius pulled it right back on Wednesday, though, 97-84. That was thanks to Zach Neto's 13 points and 29 from Dustin May. Good to see him putting up some good points there. I pulled it back again on Thursday at 27-15. Severino put up 21 for me, which was very helpful there. Held it through Friday as well, but Prius pulled it back on Saturday. Glaber had 11 points for him, and we were coming in. It looked like maybe a close matchup to maybe end up close on Sunday. Not so much when Tarek Skubal puts up 59 points. Pepio puts up 37. I didn't have a chance. That Sunday ended just 20 points for me and 166 to Flaming Prius. He did end up taking the win 543-381. That's a 162-point differential. My third straight week in the points basement, and moves me to 4-5, and Prius up to 6-3.
Yeah, what the fuck is Flaming Prius's pitching staff? Who let him get Dustin May, Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, and Nick Lodolo? What?
Skeens and Skubal is insane.
That's crazy.
Both of them I was thinking about taking with, I think, my 8th overall pick, and yeah, that's insane. How does that happen?
And Nick Lodolo was a waiver pickup. Like,
and Lodolo has been unbelievable.
Yeah,
really. Yeah, I
think I remember when who was he on? I think was he Big Peach was with Nick Lodolo? I can't remember who had Nick Lodolo, but I remember when he got dropped, I messaged that person and I was like, hey, I just want to make sure you didn't like accidentally, maybe it was like a misclick or something. He's like, no, I meant to drop him. And I'm like, well, I'm putting in a waiver claim immediately. And I looked at the waivers and I was like, oh, cool. I'm last, I think. I should be good. And then fucking Flaming swipes him from under me. I'm like, what? And now he's going on an absolute tear for him. So... And my starting pitching staff is in shambles.
Yeah. I mean, we are seeing the benefits of that starting pitching staff, especially on that last day. I mean, 166 points. With a 162-point differential, obviously not that he's going to score nothing on the last day, but like that basically makes up for the win for him, just that on the last day. And it was mostly carried by the starting pitchers. I think he maybe had one batter at 9 points or something like that, but almost all carried by that starting staff. And I mean, that's how you get your team to 6-3 is by having those really big starting pitcher performances.
Yeah, I mean, not even to howl or to scoff at his bats either. I mean, Riley Green, Trey Turner, Zach Neto's been having an unbelievable season too. PCA, I want to talk about unbelievable.
He's got
season.
PCA too. That's
PCA,
true.
Yeah, I mean, that's some scary shit right there.
It's a really solid team.
Terrified.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of Trey Turner, that was his best batter for the week, and to no surprise, he was one of our best bats at 52.8 points. Tarek Skubal at 77.5 was one of our potent pitchers. So a best bat and a potent pitcher for Prius, not surprising in that blowout win against me. On my side, we had Kyle Tucker with 32.6 as my best batter. He's been great for me so far this year. And just to illustrate how rough things have been on the pitching side for me, you all saw my message, obviously, this morning about looking for starting pitching. I normally don't list two, but Sean Burke, who is a a rookie White Sox pitcher, and Justin Slayton, who is a Red Sox, middle late inning reliever. Both had 29 points for me. I normally don't list two, but when those are my two best pitchers for the week, I think that is again illustrating a little bit about how I'm 3 weeks in the points basement. My pitching staff has just not been getting it done. And when those two guys are topping out some of the players who are really supposed to be doing well for me, it's definitely illustrating how I'm falling short. And on the other side, of course, how Prius is doing so well with those great starting pitchers.
Yeah, definitely. At the time, it was a really. This week in general, we'll get into all the scores. After having a lot of blowouts last week, we had a lot of closer games this week. Kind of more in line with what's been happening throughout the year so far in the 9 weeks. This is week 9, right? Yeah. So just good to see. We're gonna start to see within these next 5 weeks here, kind of some leveling out with the league. And this was just the first of many matches, what many in the Discord are calling the pod curse, which will continue on to this next matchup here.
Hideki, how do you feel about being a co-host, man?
I don't just bring everybody on here, huh?
Yeah.
Let the baseball gods decide.
Just do a whole league-wide pod.
Knowing our luck, everybody will come on here, and then there's going to be a strike.
And then,
there's just no baseball.
It's done.
Oh, man.
We in terms of the closeness, you're absolutely right. This was a much closer week. The matchup between me and Prius was our only 3-digit point differential. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 that were in the 2 digits, and one that was actually just a 1-digit point differential. Much closer this week. Actually, speaking of that 1 point differential, let's get into our next matchup. We have Ace versus Bose coming in. They were 5-3 and 4-4 respectively. Ace took an early lead on this one on Monday, 53-42. Ellie De La Cruz's 11 points were helpful there. Held it through Tuesday with 49-29. On Wednesday, on a real low-scoring game day from Ace, just 5 points on that day. Bose scored 83 and did end up taking the lead, holding that through Thursday when Tanner Bybee's 39 points sort of helped him out there. On Friday, we had one of those signature Ace triple-digit days with a 136 performance. Pavetta had 25, Rasmussen had 28, Wheeler had 37, and that did end up giving my co-host the lead back. Bose pulled it back on Saturday, 96-44. David Peterson's 33 points definitely helped there. And then on Sunday, he did end up closing it out thanks to Ryan O'Hearn's 15 points. This was by far our tightest matchup, 400-396. Paper thin margins, and we will get into a little bit about how that margin ended up being what it was in just a second. That does have Ace moving to 5-4, just one game above 500, and Bose moving up above 500, also at 5-4 now. So they're tied at that record.
Yeah, this one was a rough one for me. We'll get into the bench blunders later in the show, but definitely had some names on there. It's made some questionable decisions. The change, like the fact that all the lineups don't get set by the teams at the same time really sucks.
Yep.
Because then you're like, well, damn, I want to get this guy in because he's guaranteed to start, and I don't want to start the other guy who might be better, but he's not in the lineup for whatever reason today, and then that screws you out of a position. So it's so tough making so many of those decisions. That's one of the I guess one of the pieces that is just pure luck when it comes to fantasy or things like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Is just kind of having to rely on outside sources and things like that. But basically, Reed Garrett was the winner here for Bose. We basically went into later Sunday with me having Freddie and like maybe 2 innings left of Goldschmidt. And then I also had Vesia potentially. He had Ohtani, who led the damn game off with a homer. Love it. But figures that was the only offense the Dodgers could muster. And then he also happened to have Reed Garrett, who the Mets brought in to close that game. And he did so in pretty convincing fashion with a couple of Ks, only gave up the one hit. And those 10 points were basically the difference, I think, because he won by 4. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, 4 points.
Yeah.
So those 10 are the difference. Oh, my God.
That's
wow.
It's just so many times you see where it comes down to the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball game.
This may be one of the more brutal losses of the season. I didn't realize that Reed Garrett was the
fucking closer,
closing out the game against your team,
and he strikes out too
to win Bo's the
game, dude. That is so heartbroken because I had, like, the last time I looked, I was up by, like, maybe 0.5, I think. And
right.
I thought that was it. I was like, oh, thank God. I didn't even realize he had, because, obviously Diaz is the Mets closer. So I'm like, oh, right. He doesn't have Diaz. I'm like, all right, we're chilling. And then I see he won by like 6 or by like 4 points. I'm like, how the hell? Where did he get 10 points from? And then I saw Hideki put it in the Discord. He's like, oh yeah, Reed got a save. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Oh no.
I was like, come on, man. What are we doing?
That is a
pod curse.
That is a certified pod curse moment. I'm laughing. I am sorry for you. Great win for Bose. I am sorry for you.
Nothing against Bose, man. Great game. I was
holy cow.
I mean, a little salty.
That is basically in everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Went
I mean,
wrong.
It happens against your team. It's that narrow a margin.
Oh my God, dude.
That is brutal.
Yeah, and Freddie had a pretty good game too.
He did. Yeah, I know.
It just didn't matter.
Oh my God.
Because we couldn't score a damn run. All right, on to the next one, Zang.
Well, yeah. Let's quickly touch on best bats and hitters for you two. Ryan O'Hearn at 33.4, the hometown hitter for Bose, was his best batter. Tanner Bybee with 39.4, just that one start was his best pitcher. Over on your side, Ellie De La Cruz had 31.3, and Drew Rasmussen had 28.2. Those were our best bats and
you didn't
pitchers.
Put Wheeler?
Oh, Wheeler had 37. He sure did. Zach Wheeler had 37, not Drew Rasmussen, who had just 20.
Just going to make a little quick
edit.
Yes,
I do it manually where I look through and sometimes I miss stuff like that. So there you go. Zach Wheeler. This is why we have co-hosts. They help us out. What was it I had last week? Fott had like 70-something points. No.
I did. I did see something about that.
One of those, yeah. And I was like, oh no, with 34 points, this guy. So, thank you for catching that.
I got you.
Moving on to our next matchup, we have Al Martinet, who came into the week 3-5, going up against lead leaguer Hideki at 6-2. Hideki took an early lead as expected, 38-34 on Monday. Most of that coming from Chris Bubich's 35 points for him. Nolan Chanuel, who we'll talk about a little bit later, had 16 for Al Martinet on the other side. But a strong Tuesday performance from Al Martinet, 151 points, gave him the lead. Birdsong's 22, Will Warren's 30, and Yamamoto's 38 helped him jump out there. 39-102 on the next day wasn't enough for Hideki to pull the lead back. Al Martinet held it as well through Thursday, 43-60. Taylor Ward had 20 points there, really impressive from the Angels outfielder. Through Friday, he held it as well, 46-79, although we did see Hideki win that day, start to inch back in thanks to Ketel's 10, Chris Sale's 30, and Kasperius' 21. On Saturday, Al Martinet held a narrow lead, just 91-60, and on Sunday, what seemed to be inevitable, Hideki did make his way back into the lead, 84-28. Again, Chris Bubich shows up with another 35 points, helping him steal back that win on the last day of the week and close out another victory for him at just a 16-point differential. It was 453-437. Another tight one that pushes Hideki up to 7-2 and Al Martinet down to 3-6.
Yeah, Chris Bubich, like you mentioned, with that big performance against a hot Minnesota team. What were they up to, like 12 wins in a row?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So 7 innings, only 2 hits given up, the 1 earned run, 9 Ks, 2 walks. I mean, just an absolute decimating performance that Hideki severely needed. And Kodai Senga, the guy, I pronounced that so wrong, but you know what I meant. Kodai Senga came in, gave basically what he needed to. I think Hideki won the day by like 16 points or something like that.
Yeah.
And Senga got him 18. So, I mean, he didn't have a... I mean, he had a pretty good game, all things considered. His one blemish was obviously the leadoff home run to Ohtani on the second pitch. But, it's Ohtani, not really, flaming him for giving up a home run to arguably the best player in the league. But, the 4 walks were a little concerning, but he kept it clean on the scoreboard for the most part, got the 5 Ks. And, another eking win out for Hideki, and he remains on top of the world.
7-2, man.
Damn, man. That one hurts even more, to not only lose the way I lost, but for him to win that way.
Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, with you two up at the top there. Yeah, I mean, he is, this is sort of a real world baseball ism, but like he just kind of finds a way to win.
Yeah.
Like, again, like you said, Senga with 18 points, he won by 16. Like he feels a little bit inevitable in this league at this point. And it is... Again, we're looking at his pitching staff. You got Gossman putting up 41 points in one day. Ranger Suarez, who put up 31 in one day. Sale, who's back to his form, putting up 30 in a day. Framber with 26. Those 2 35s from Bubic. Like, it's no mystery how he's racking up so many points there.
And he's making the moves, too. I mean, under kind of a undershot, I don't want to say undershot, but underlooked move he made. He picked up Gavin Sheets yesterday for the start, and Gavin racked up 10 points for him.
That's right, yeah.
Like, that's just... It's those moves like that where, they don't really go notice. You just see him in the lineup, but you actually go into it, look at... The one thing I love about Fantrax is being able to see kind of easily what the player's transaction history is in fantasy. So, like, yeah, you can look to see. The reason why I know that is because I dropped Gavin Sheets, and I dropped him earlier in the month, and I was like, oh, that's weird. When did Hideki pick him up? And I literally saw he picked him up yesterday. I'm like, wow, dude. Like, that's the difference between 7-2 and 6-3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great performance from him there. His batters, Ketel Marte was his best batter for the week with 32.2. Nice to see the Arizona second baseman making his way back into the lineup. His best pitcher, Chris Bubic, with 70.8. Got him. Was obviously one of our potent pitchers for the week. That pair of 35-point performances will certainly get you on the list.
Wait, what was his exact? I'm so sorry. What was
No. Oh, go ahead. It was 70.8 for Bubic.
He got exactly 35.4 in both of his performances.
In both of them, yeah, back to back.
That's crazy.
Pretty cool.
Consistency.
Yeah.
There's our glitch of the Matrix.
There it is for the week. Mark it down. There's another sound drop we need. Over on the other side for Al Marnett, Taylor Ward with 43.2. For the surging Anaheim Angels was one of our best bats for the week, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto with 38.1, a frequent flyer on the best pitchers for Al Martinet was his best pitcher for the week.
That was against the A's, correct?
It was, yes.
I was at that game.
Oh, were you really? Oh, no way.
I was at that game, yep. That was
That's cool.
Mexican Heritage Night. Went with my mama. Shout out my mom.
Love it.
And that was that was the day Tanner Scott decided to begin his downfall.
Blow up, yeah. 4 years, 64 million. Is that right?
Something like that. It's when you're the Dodgers, and this is gonna sound like such an asshole thing to say. But when you're the Dodgers, money isn't really a thing.
Yeah,
you kind of just forget what you sign guys to.
He'll be fine. They'll be fine. I think it's pretty funny that he was like the Ohtani kryptonite last year, and when they signed him, I was almost like, obviously he's a good pitcher, but like, is this also so nobody else has the Ohtani kryptonite anymore? Like, they just have it now, and nobody can use that.
I would have fully believed that had we also signed Nestor Cortez.
Yeah,
yep, we're 1,000% just trying to take all the Ohtani, like anti-Ohtani pitchers off the market.
Yeah, although they need Nestor Cortez to give up nukes to Freddie Freeman, so they need him on another team.
This is also true. That was kind of the deciding factor in it. They're like, well, we can get somebody off the market that can hurt Ohtani, but it's Freddie Freeman, and he's only 2 guys later in the lineup.
Chestnut checkers.
What is it, like 4D chess or something like that?
Yeah, 4D chess. Got to make it happen. Well, our next matchup, although it ended closely, did not see a lot of back and forth. It was in 10 versus Mike, in 10 at 2-6, and Mike coming in at 5-3. I'll just get out right ahead and say this. Mike took the lead 104 on Monday to 83 for in 10. He did hold it through the end of the week. Some nice performances we saw were 19 points from Seiya Suzuki on Tuesday. Lindor had 14 for in 10 on Wednesday. Yelich had 20 on Thursday for him. I know in 10 who is... it sounds like looking to sell Yelich, who's on the wrong side of 30. He's been performing really well. If you're in need of an outfielder, that could be someone to look into. 26 for Devers on Friday for in 10. On the other side, we had Seiya with 15 and Pablo Lopez with 18 for Mike. Keller had 26 on Saturday for in 10. And then Albies and Horner both had 9. And Seiya again with 17 for Mike on Sunday. But he did go wire to wire here. This one ended up 457 to 426. That would be a 31-point differential, pushing Mike up to 6-3, and in 10 down to, as we said, 2-7 on the year.
Yeah, it was a valiant effort by in 10. Obviously, you mentioned he had the back-to-back days where he had about 200 combined points, but Mike just kind of doing what he needed to do throughout each day, and finishing it on Sunday with the 42. Excuse me. And that was kind of ultimately what, put him over the top. But yeah, I think this is where we're really going to start to see the sellers start to happen. I expect to see within the next, I kind of mentioned, looking out for the next month or so, but probably within this next month, we'll start to see some big trades happening. We'll start to see some draft picks moving. I feel like that's going to be really interesting. But yeah, I'm excited and also terrified because that means a couple of teams are going to seriously load up, and that only spells danger for us middle of the Packers.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we have in 10 who is sort of via Discord declared that he's looking to sell, and serial chillers as well. So we know that's two teams. I have to say, with a lot of young guys on his roster and just a 3-6 record, Al Martinet's another guy I'm keeping an eye out for. Maybe for some older guys to get traded. I know he obviously did a lot of training and brought in a big time youth movement in that sort of second trade mania, and well below just 3-6 now, and I don't know, we could see him trade some guys. So I know I am looking earlier than the trade deadline, like the MLB trade deadline, because our playoffs is the 2 or 3 weeks before the actual playoffs start. So you want those extra weeks. Like, frankly, I'm starting to look now, and especially as we have some teams that are kind of declaring, okay, hands up, I'm gonna sell for some futures and kind of try and build something for the next year, next couple of years. Just keep an eye out, especially again those guys kind of on the wrong side of 30. Sonny Gray is another one in 10 has. We'll get down to a potential trade for Al Martinet soon, although that is a younger guy. In 10's best batter for the week was Rafi Big Scoops, Rafael Devers, who was one of our best bats for the week with 46 points. And on the other side, Sonny Gray, 55 points for him. Was not one of our potent pitchers, but was certainly close, and he's appeared a number of times. Seiya Suzuki with 56.4 was Mike's best batter, and was also one of the league's best bats for the week. Really solid performance out there in Chicago for Seiya. And Josh Hader, the relief pitcher, was actually his best pitcher for the week with 24 points. So pretty impressive on Mike's end that he could pull out a win like this without really much starting pitching. Obviously relievers are important, but typically we're not seeing them at the top of your list there. So obviously, Hader's an incredible pitcher, but having him at the top of the list and still seeing Mike pull out a win here is impressive. And although he did go wire to wire, 31 is a pretty small differential. So there is certainly some hope for in 10. I would say there are pieces there. We've talked about Mike a lot as one of the better teams in this league, and being able to keep it close even if he didn't have the lead after a day is a sign that there are still some good pieces there.
Yeah, I think, obviously in 10 just kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start to the year. But like we have mentioned, it's a very long season. And 5 games isn't anything to necessarily, scoff at, but I think that he can absolutely make a comeback. It just depends on a couple of his guys, getting hot at the right time. But yeah, as you mentioned, Mike is and was still an early season prediction to take it all, kind of with that super team that he's already assembled. So, no harm in losing to Mike. I also think it will depend on how N10 wants to play this coming out of this week. As you mentioned, he did talk a little bit about being a seller in the channel. So, we'll see how or what kind of moves he makes and, where he decides to go with it. But yeah, definitely a close game. And I think regardless of what the records will be, you will still see these very close games just because of the amount of people in the league, the amount of talent on everybody's team. It's just, the numbers, the probability, we're not a math pod, but somewhere in there it tells us that, these matches are just going to be close just given the nature of the talent in everybody's roster.
Yeah, absolutely. If you had to make a prediction, do you think teams that are selling are going to look more for draft picks, for prospects, or for established young major leaguers?
Man, that's tough because two of those you can argue are basically the same thing with the minor league players and the draft picks because you're essentially going to be using those draft picks on minor league players. So I think this will really just come down to the knowledge you have of those minor league players. And for the most part, I think we all kind of just have knowledge on our own hometown teams and our own hometown minor league players. And of course, the big names, the top 10 in the MLB and, whatnot. But I think it'll just be, I think those will play a part, but I think really what you're looking for are the proven younger talent in the league. Yeah. Because that's what's going to guarantee you not, because you could trade all your minor league players and all your draft picks and none of them will be able to pan out, or none of them could pan out. But you want to make sure that if you are selling a pretty, a highly touted player, not saying that Bose is doing this, but let's say, Bose sells, Scooble high right now, because this is probably the highest you're ever going to be able to sell him. And, he gets back a bunch of draft picks, a bunch of minor league players. Like, yeah, that's cool and all. But at the end of the day, those could turn into absolutely nothing. And then at the end of the day, what have you really traded for?
Right. It's the way I've heard it described a lot is, do you want the boat or the mystery box? Like,
yes,
and it's kind of
Family Guy episode.
Yeah, it could, but the mystery box could be a boat. You never know.
But you have the boat.
Yeah, you have the boat.
Do you want a boat or a chance at it?
Yeah, and that's sort of what it is. And so I think at that point it becomes a volume question,
Yeah.
And I have never really had to look at prospects like this, but I'm sort of considering my own fantasy team. But even AAA prospects right now are almost a 2-year window before you have an idea what they are. Rookie years are so hard to judge. We obviously see guys like Merrill and Churio last year who, come up and just light the world on fire. There are also a lot of guys like Jackson Holiday who come up and really, really struggle. And there are some guys who it's a little bit of a mix of both. They have a few really good months, then the league really adjusts, and they have a few terrible months. And, even with these young prospects, I think I'm trying to keep in mind that, you kind of got to wait 2 years before you really have a sense of what you've gotten, before you have that consistency that we talk about being so important. So I think the price of young major leaguers is rightfully very high. But if I'm a rebuilding team, that's what I'm looking for. Is getting 1 or 2 young guys rather than maybe 5 or 6 draft picks or minor leaguers.
Yeah, I mean, it really just, I feel like you mentioned, the minor league, and especially for so many teams, that's the other thing, too. For so many of these teams, the minor league system is just downright abysmal. I'll just come out and say it.
Yeah.
It's just not good. So you really are not only are you taking a risk with the player, but you're taking a risk with the organization that they're going to be able to develop this player into their full potential and bring out their full potential. So I think that's the other thing that's so tough with trading for prospects is, yeah, I'm trading you a known commodity, and he may not have even come up in the best system, but he's just that good that he overcame it. What's to say that the next 3 guys aren't going to be able to do that? You know, like it's just tough to the value that these players have that are already proven. It's you couldn't give enough prospects and trade picks to make it even worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I know after I sent that message in, I had about 5 trade requests come into me. So we'll probably be looking at some next week. And again, you know, we probably want to get started earlier rather than later on getting some of these trades done. So for Chillers and Inten, who I know have already declared kind of as sellers for the time being, keep an eye out and send some offers their way. We can see some selling and buying start to happen. Speaking of Chillers, we are going to move on to his matchup. It's our 5th matchup of the week. It was Chillers versus Oki Sooner, who both came into the week at 3-5. Chillers did end up taking an early lead, 83-61 on Monday. Pasquantino's 10 points and Christopher Sanchez's 23 helped him lead there. But Oki Sooner took the lead from him on Tuesday with a 99-53 point performance. We saw Harper put up 11, and Jesus Luzardo has been an absolute revelation for the Phillies, put up 34 over there. Harper put up another 11 on the next day as Sooner held his lead. Jack Flaherty's 23 points on Thursday weren't quite enough to give Chillers the lead again, even though he did win that day on Thursday, 46-29. On Friday, he won the day again, 95-65, thanks to Noah Cameron's 31, but Oki Sooner did hold the lead. A huge matchup on Saturday as we saw 114-100. Chillers again winning the day, but still not taking the lead. Carson Kelly put up 10 points on that day for him, and Shane Boz and Jeffrey Springs both put up 20. Freed on the other side for Oki Sooner put up 35, and Libertor with 26. And then Sooner, who had held the lead since Tuesday, did close it out on Sunday with a 94-56 point performance. Jesus Luzardo again popping up with 25 points. And that did end up giving Oki Sooner the win, 526-485. That was a 41-point differential. And moves Sooner to 4-5 and Serial Chillers down to 3-6.
Yeah, I mean, just another case of where the final day is really what put the nail in the coffin for this matchup. I mean, you see here Oki winning by, 41 points?
41, yeah.
41, and he scores 94, Serial scores 56. I mean, like, it's crazy how many of these games really come down to the final day and what you're able to do on the final day. Mm-hmm. And the fact of it's not the randomness, but just depending on the week, your star pitcher might only go 1 game, and the other week he might go 2. So
right.
It's just so tough and this is why I say like we're always going to see such close matchups. It's because of the randomness and the variety of everything included and incorporated into this league. You're still going to see days where it's like, how did this number 1 team lose to a team that's, bottom 4? And it's like, well, the bottom 4 team had their aces going twice, and the top team had, maybe 5 starting pitchers the whole week. We're going to see, especially as we get more and more into the season, we've already seen it with some injuries and stuff like that. So, and a big game too. Both these teams were 3-5 coming into this matchup, so a very big swing game.
Yeah.
The pod curse continues for Serial.
I tried my best, man. I really did.
Oh man,
I did everything I could, but yeah,
that's so rough.
0-6 since I declared him one of the powerhouses of the league.
That's crazy.
That's not a good look for me.
No apologies from me, Serial. I didn't do it.
That wasn't. That's
totally Zang.
It's all on the old Zangerang over here. Big swing week, as you point out. I mean, obviously, Chillers has had a bit of a tough go at it and kind of called out as a seller. If you win this week, you're looking at 4-5. You're kind of in that. I'm looking at the 4-5 teams. They're in the 7-9 range. Maybe that's something you reconsider, but dropping down again to 3-6. That is kind of keeps him on the track of what we saw.
Yeah, well, you want to talk about swing game? Wait until you get into this final matchup.
Oh yeah. Well, we will quickly touch on best batters and pitchers for these two teams. A pair of Phillies were led the charge for Okie Sooner. Bryce Harper with 37.5, and the aforementioned Jesus Luzardo was one of our potent pitchers for the week with 59.6. Over on the other side, we have Vinny Pasquantino with 29.8 for Serial Chillers, and then Christopher Sanchez, another Philly, showing up with 34 points, who is his best pitcher.
Yeah, another Jesus Luzardo, man. He's been not surprising, but I think it's just that level of consistency we were kind of hoping to see from him in Miami is starting to finally show up in Philly. So yeah, very very excited for him. Always kind of root for him. I liked seeing him pitch in Miami. So I like to see him here.
The Marlins need to be disbanded, man. I'm sorry. They traded, I think he came over in the Starling Marte trade, if I'm remembering correctly, from Oakland in 2020. Right. And then he's from Miami. He grew up a Marlins fan. He had that great year in 23, had a down year in 24, and they trade him. And we all knew this was going to happen. What are they doing? Insane, to a division rival.
That's the crazy part is you traded him to a division rival.
What are you doing?
Utter insanity. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? For a pitcher, I do really like Jesus Luzardo. It is really great to see him finally getting some of that consistency, even if it just makes me mad. On behalf of Marlins fans, I don't even like the Marlins, but I'm just mad for them. That should be, of course, the guy you keep around. But
totally understandable in that regard.
Oh my God. Well, moving down to our last matchup, again another swing series as these two teams came in tied, both at 4-4 this time. So a little bit of a battle for the over and under 500. JMC versus Big Peach, as I said, both coming in 4-4. Big Peach took a commanding lead on the first day, 105-31. Luis Castillo had 37 and Robbie Ray had 33. Big showing, 70 points from your starting pitchers just on that first day. Over on the other side on Tuesday, Judge and Rice each had 11 points for JMC. Logan Henderson with 27 points helped Big Peach hold that lead with a 111-53 point performance. 70-69, just 1 point separating them on Wednesday from a couple of big pitching performances on JMC's side. Matt Olson had 13 on Thursday, while Rodon had 34 on JMC's side. On the other side, JMC did win Thursday, 51-33, but Peach held that lead that he had up to that day. The same was true the next day, where JMC won 64-36. Landon Roop had 25 points for him, and Isaac Paredes and Brandon Lau had 12 points for Big Peach on the other side. Peach held the lead, and the same ended up being true through the weekend. 83-82, JMC obviously winning that Saturday, but wasn't quite enough, and then a massive slugfest to end it off on Sunday, 125-132. That lead that Peach had built up was obviously too big, and he did end up winning that last day. Brandon Lau put up 13 for him. Robbie Ray, 32 points. Over on the other side, a frequent flyer on these segments, Spencer Schwellenbach with 27.
Oh man, big fan of the Schwelly.
Big fan. Love
definitely
Schwelly.
tried to make a trade for him. JMC was not budging.
He's been high on him over there for sure.
Yeah.
That did have the ending score of the week. Big Peach had 573 and JMC had 486. That's an 87-point differential. And as I sort of previewed, that pushes Peach above 500 to 5-4, and JMC just below at 4-5.
Yeah, this was like I said, I want to talk about swing match. These were two 500 teams coming into this week. Obviously, winner comes out above 500, loser will not. So this is a huge matchup, and Big Peach with basically the big, strong, back-to-back 100-point plus days to kind of open it and set the tone. And, at that point, JMC was just playing catch-up for the rest of the week, and it's really hard to catch up when you're down that big to start. And one thing I was going to mention as well, also, for all the ish we talk on Fantrax and the UI. One cool thing that I love seeing is at the end of the week you're able to see, even throughout, you're able to see the combined total stats for your entire team. And it's a very telling stat because if you very quickly look, you'll see that Big Peach offensively just decimated JMC in about every way possible. Had more total at-bats, more total hits, more runs scored, singles, doubles, had one less triple, but 17 home runs compared to 8 from JMC, and 5 of those 8 home runs for JMC were both Acuna and Judge. So to only get 3 home runs from the rest of your squad the entire week, that's really rough. But man, 17 from Big Peach, that's crazy to see. I think he had like 6 players or 7 players to have multiple home runs throughout the week, and only 57 strikeouts to 72 for JMC. So
that is
those negative points racking up.
They sure do. Yeah, we saw a lot of negatives coming in here, and in terms of those home runs and big performances, Brandon Lau was picked up midweek by Big Peach. He's been kind of passed around from a couple people, and put up one of the highest performances in terms of points this week on the back of a couple homers. As you mentioned, he's on here twice, and that could be a sneaky one of those pickups. We talked about Lodolo earlier coming off of waivers. Lau's shown it in the past that he can be that guy, and if you're getting that production from your second base position, that's pretty special.
Yeah, definitely love to see that from the second base position.
Yeah. JMC's best batter and pitcher for the week were, as I think it has been for a couple weeks in a row,
Shocker.
A pair of Yankees. Aaron Judge, of course, 39.6, and then Carlos Rodon with 34.9. Over on Big Peach's side, we had one of our best batters, Isaac Paredes, who had 41.4 points. His best pitcher for the week was Robbie Ray with 66 points.
Got him.
He was one of our best pitchers. And his second best pitcher, if you have been keeping track, is another one of our potent pitchers, Luis Castillo.
Got him.
With 55.6, who is another potent pitcher. So obviously, when you've got one of the best batters and 2 of the potent pitchers for the week, not a shock that we're seeing Big Peach take the win here. I did want to note something interesting, that Isaac Paredes was actually the 6th best batter for the week. Nick Kurtz, who had 45.4 points, was above him in total points, but 27.4 of those came on the bench for Al Martinet. Kurtz is obviously a first baseman and is a little bit blocked by Nolan Shanuel, who I mentioned earlier. He put up 38.6, not a poor performance at all this week for him, but obviously not as impressive as what Kurtz is doing. If you're looking for some young controllable talent, just my 2 cents, Nolan Shanuel might be someone to look for. Al Martinet clearly needs an opening at first base. This is the second week in a row we've seen Kurtz put up just massive points on the bench. So for some of our rebuilding teams, there's a little advice from the old Zangarang.
Yeah, Kurtz has been killing it, man.
He has been. I was in the park for his first Major League home run. That was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see him live in person as well.
Big boy.
Big boy. Him and Jacob Wilson as well. Shout out Jacob Wilson for the A's. Little known fact about this, he's actually from near my hometown. He's from Thousand Oaks. Which is
right.
Just right out, 20-minute drive. I actually work out in Thousand Oaks, funny enough. So work right in the city where he was born. And one of my friends in high school is actually his very close cousin. So him and I, the old friend from high school, I should say, were chatting it up a bit. He was kind of filling me in on some of the background info of Wilson. So I became a Jacob Wilson fan.
That's fun. Yeah, he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he is.
Weirdest batting stance I've ever seen. I didn't realize it until I was in those seats and right behind home plate. Holy cow. It's so bizarre. Great. And he's just fun, does not want to walk. He just wants to hit the ball.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun to watch.
Very aggressive batter, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely my kind of guy as well. Corey Seager, another figure, shortstop, one of my favorite batter or players in the league. Same thing, very aggressive, just all out first pitch swinger.
Mm-hmm.
I love those players, man. Those aggressive guys. Because in the very, very small time that I played, that is the kind of player I was.
Yeah.
I just wanted to swing at everything. And yeah, love that.
Who wants to walk?
Yeah, walk surfer,
Yeah. Wilson's looking like a pretty runaway favorite so far for the American League Rookie of the Year. Christian Campbell is looking great off the bat. He has had a rough month of May. He had an OPS above 800 coming into May, and I think it's dropped to like the low 700s, high 600s. So definitely seeing the league adjusting to him a little bit. Dude can hit, though. I'm sure he'll make his way back, but Wilson hasn't seen that slump yet, so unless it comes at some point, he is looking like a favorite up there for the A's, which would be good to see for them. Nice to see a little that swing coming back.
Anything good that can happen to the A's this year is
they need
just
it.
Yeah, they do.
Sliding on down to our standing segment, of course, holding his spot at the top of the league, we have Hideki in first place. Moving up one spot from last week, we have Mike in second place, and Flaming Prius also moving up one spot, filling out the top three. Bose slid up one spot from last week into fourth place. Big Peach, off of that big win we talked about, slid up 2 spots to fifth place. Sliding down 4 is Ace, down to sixth place, and up 1 from last week, even though I lost, was me, Zang. Okie Sooner slid up 2 spots to 8th place, and JMC, another one, down 4 from 5th to 9th place. Al Martinet slid down 1 place from 9th to 10th to hanging, as we said, at 10th place. And then Serial Chillers hanging in at 11th, and in 10 hanging in at 12th, both where they were last week.
Oh, man. Sorry, in 10.
It's tough.
I'll issue another apology to Serial as well, man. I'm so sorry.
That's tough. Hanging out down there. And 11th, the pod curse will maybe
I dropped 4 spots this week.
4 spots, and this is we mention it every week. It's becoming a little bit of a gimmick, but the head-to-heads are really big. Peach, and Bose all have the same record. But I believe it is heads-to-heads that are giving them the lead over you there.
Yeah, I just lost to Bose this week, and
exactly.
I must have lost to Peach then if he's in front of me.
Yeah,
I could have sworn I beat him, but honestly,
maybe
that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have Fantrax pulled up. It could also be point differential. I know that's our second tiebreaker. I'm also I'm wondering, if this is something I'll need to dig into a little bit. If Bose beat Peach, but you also beat Peach, but Bose beat you, is that why it's ordered Bose, Peach, Ace?
Oh, so Bose beat. Wait, is it a triangle, or did Bose beat both of us?
That's what I'm wondering.
Because obviously I lost to Bose this week, and then did you say I beat Peach, or
I'm wondering if you beat Peach, but Bose also beat him. Does that have him above you? If that
wouldn't make sense though, because if I beat Peach,
then you should be above.
But again, like I said, I don't even remember. I very well could have lost to Peach. I forgot already. I think he was one of the first. No, maybe not, but I don't know.
Let's dig in. I'll pull up Fantrax right now because I am curious about this.
I don't know how it works.
I am learning. So okay, let's see. We're looking for Ace and Peach. Let's see, week 9. No, that was versus JMC. Week 8, we had Peach versus Al Martinet. Week 7, Peach versus me. 6, 5. Thank you for listening to me work my way through this.
No, my bad. I am also kind of seeing my
No, all good. We have
once again this lovely
Ace versus okay, so Peach did beat you in week 2.
So he did beat me, okay.
Yeah, so that would be the tiebreaker there. And then of course, and we have seen, this is a little interesting, we've seen actually standing switch midweek a little bit as points change up a little bit. So that is, I know, obviously the second tiebreaker there. So we can see those switch midweek if teams hadn't played, although I think in 2 weeks we should have had everyone play everyone. If my math is right there. So that's when I think we'll see things start to hold because we'll have those head-to-head records.
Hell yeah.
The aforementioned bench blunders. We do have a long list here. Ezekiel Tovar leads us off. He had 11 points on Monday for Flaming Prius. Prius was the winner, of course, so that is not a big detractor. Nick Kurtz, who we mentioned before, had 10 points both on Tuesday and Friday for Al Martinet. Those certainly would have been helpful in his 16-point loss to Hideki. Logan O'Hoppe had 17 points on the bench for me on Wednesday.
Oy.
Tough, I know. You don't get 17 points from a catcher a lot. He has started every day since, though, because I'm not letting that happen again. Another catcher.
They've been crazy hot.
Yeah, that Angels winning streak was great for him.
Yeah.
Another catcher, JT Realmuto, who has since been dropped, actually, by Big Peach, had 14 points on Wednesday. A relief pitcher for Detroit, Brant Herter, had 12 on Wednesday for Al Martinet. It's a little bit of an unusual strategy. I haven't seen a lot of having more relief pitchers than you could fit because they're so fickle when they play and when they don't. But, obviously those 12 points hurt. Brent Rooker with 16 on Thursday for Prius, not too detrimental to his final score. Unfortunately, O'Neal Cruz scoring 12 on Friday was more than enough to make up for the differential in Ace and Bo's matchup. The same would have been true for Zach McKinstry on Sunday, who scored 9 points. And although it was not the difference maker in the matchup, Christian Walker scored 12 points on Sunday for in 10 that was left on his bench.
Yeah, it was a rough couple of decisions for me there.
Yeah, those second to two last obviously stand out. Either one would have been enough to take the win over Bose, and it's
the other thing is the sucks too is that Cruz start. I literally had looked at both him and I forgot who I even started. I don't know, Miguel Garcia or somebody. I don't know. I started somebody over him because of their total point. Like that, I told myself that was going to be the deciding factor for me starting was whoever scored the most points in the whole year so far. And whoever I started took that point, and then O'Neal decides to go off for 2 homers, and I was like, all right, well, sweet, thanks.
That is tough. Batters are the toughest starts,
God,
and especially again in a 12-team league. When we had our 20 last year,
oh
it was like,
God,
your start. The starts are so obvious unless somebody is sitting for the day or they don't have a game. Like, obviously, you're starting these guys. But,
you were in that league, if anybody was just in the lineup for that day, they were getting a start on somebody's roster.
I've got a full team of starters. This is incredible.
No, seriously, man. That was such a brutal league.
Yeah, but, when we've got 12, you've got guys like O'Neal Cruz on your bench, and it's going to come back to bite you like this. So
that hurts.
Tough one. I know. I'm sorry to kind of drive it in again
Let's get on to the next one.
Let's move to wasted waivers, where you can find a few guys that might be able to help you out in the coming weeks. Curtis Mead, Tampa Bay first baseman, second baseman, had 37.4 versus Houston and Toronto. Solid showing for him. Has that right side of the infield eligibility, which is certainly nice. Another fellow that we've got, Jose Altuve, familiar name, had 34.5. Kind of surprised to see him on waivers, I have to say, although when I looked at his total points, like you were referencing, not so great this year. It does seem like maybe we are entering the twilight of his career.
Just another guy on the wrong side of 30, man.
That's right, yeah.
It's like, look, obviously you know how I feel about 5-2 and the Astros, so I'm going to just try to keep that as a fan separate from what I'm about to say. But sorry.
No, that one took me a minute.
But yeah, look, it's just it's classic case of, kind of like you. I was like, wow, I'm shocked to see him on waivers, but it's just a guy who's on past the back end of his prime. And it's and you were just talking about seeing guys like O'Neal Cruz on the bench. You're not going to see guys like Jose Altuve, who, like we mentioned, are on the wrong side of 30, and kind of playing for a team that isn't, obviously Astros are relevant right now, but they're not, that whole division is kind of just a little bit of a mess right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think he still will be able to provide for somebody who'll have these, kind of good weeks here and there, just because he was at one point that kind of caliber of player. But yeah, I don't expect him. I expect him to be, similar to like a joint in a smokehouse. Just going to kind of be passed around by everybody kind of throughout the league, and hopefully you'll pick him up on a week where he has, that hot streak going. But yeah.
Yeah. He definitely seems like I remember the year when like Pujols stopped being like a lock, and that felt so weird because for so many years it was like, it's Albert Pujols. Of course you fucking have Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, it's like he's a waivers guy now, and it does seem like we're kind of hitting that point with Altuve. One note in his favor, at least for this year, this will probably go away next year, but he does have both second base and left field eligibility. We've obviously talked about how valuable it is having guy who can play both in the infield and in the outfield. So if you do need a fill-in, maybe for, again, a bench spot to fill more position than one, he could be pretty valuable there. Over to our arms, we had Edward Cabrera, starter for the Marlins, who put up 46.5 on 2 performances, just 14.7 versus Chicago. Obviously, that's a phenomenal offense there. But then 31.8 versus the Angels. I know he's coming back from elbow surgery, so might be a little bit inconsistent, but is definitely a guy who's showed some promise in the past. So if you're in need of starters, especially young guys who have some upside moving forward, he could be one to look at.
There you go. You don't even got to make trades.
Yeah, I know. Just pick up Cabrera. In there. And then Quinn Priester is our other wasted waiver arm. He had 38.6. That was on 2 starts again, 12.4 versus Baltimore, and then 26.2 at Pittsburgh. Milwaukee's always kind of got some secret sauce with pitchers, and Priester certainly has been lighting the world on fire. But if you need a spot start, he can be someone pretty helpful there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No trades for this week, which was a bit
Shocker.
of a surprise.
Thank you guys giving us a little bit of a break.
I know. Somehow we're still pushing an hour.
There was a lot to talk about. It was a great week of
close matchups like that. We got to dive into them.
Yeah.
And we will, as I said, most likely see some transactions to discuss next week. We'll probably wrap things up then with next week's notes. Our first matchup for the week is Big Peach, who's coming in 5-4 against. Oh, Mike's down. There we go. Speaking of Mike, coming up against down. Mike, M-I-K-E, not M-I-C, who is 6-3, pardon me. So Peach 5-4 and Mike 6-3. Second matchup is Bose, who is also 5-4, going up against Serial Chillers, who is 3-6. Flaming Prius at 6-3 will be taking on Ace at 5-4. Hideki at 7-2 will be taking on JMC, looking to get back to 500 at 4-5. Oki Sooner, also at 4-5, will be taking on in 10, who is at 2-7, as we mentioned. And finally, Zang at 4-5 is going up against Al Martinet at 3-6. Of the teams that are lower in record, that would be Big Peach, Serial Chillers, Ace, JMC, Oki Sooner, and Al Martinet. Who do you see? Oh, pardon me, in 10 and Al Martinet. Who do you see is the most likely to upset in terms of standings against their opponent this week?
I'm going to say JMC just for I think this is kind of like not saying that Hideki's going to get the pod curse. I'm not putting that evil on him, but I think this is just kind of like the point now where it's like, oh my God, Hideki's about to pull away. He's 7-2, clearly the best team, and fantasy has a very, as we mentioned, it's a harsh mistress, has a very, very cruel way of humbling you. And I think also just for JMC, a big win to get him back to 500. Give me JMC in the upset over the big dog Hideki.
Yeah, the one I've got my eye on is Big Peach versus Mike. This feels like an absolute slugfest, like 500-600 points for each of them. We obviously saw Peach put up those 3 days with over 100 points this week. Mike, we've talked extensively about what a strong team that is. I don't know that we'll see Peach upset, but it certainly is in the cards. We saw him put up 573 this week. That is...
Yeah, Peach's offense is definitely nothing to slouch at. I think we've talked about it in previous episodes.
Well, and the offense isn't going to be that week-to-week thing like you talked about with pitchers where, I have my guy going 2 starts this week. He'll only do 1 next week. Like, offense stays, so that could be an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be. I honestly not to take away from your pick at all. I didn't really try to pick any of the ones. I know technically they would be upsets, but I try to stay away from the matchups where both teams were above 500.
That's fair.
Just because I feel like Yeah, although technically it will be an upset. I feel like those matches were so early in the league or so early in the year.
Yeah,
that it's kind of hard to look at it as an upset.
5-4, totally 6-3 is a little
yeah. One loss every I definitely see your point, and those matches. I think that match and my match with Prius, unfortunately enough, those are both going to be just absolute slugfest. So we'll see who comes out on top.
It'll be fun to look at. Well,
we have a chance that all four of us could potentially be 6-4.
That's right.
Oh, insane!
That would be fun
if me and Peach can upset.
Love to see that. Alrighty. Well, from me, Zang, and the return of my wonderful co-host Ace, we're looking forward to recapping with you next week, and we will see you then.
Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Do you know what that makes you? Larry?
Lolligan.
Lolligan.